I moved to Chicago right after college because I wanted to try living alone, and everyone said the city was full of opportunity. My mom can't work a smartphone, so, at her insistence, I signed up for a landline. I picked up a cheap black rotary from a thrift shop, ran the cord to the wall jack, and figured that was that. One lazy afternoon, my buddy Marco called to catch up. We were laughing about dumb high school stuff when he went quiet. Who's with you?" he asked. "I keep hearing a woman." "Is your girlfriend over?" My apartment was empty. "It's just me," I said. He hesitated, then said he kept hearing a breathy laugh underneath my voice. It weirded me out enough that I wrapped the call and decided I'd use my cell from now on. To be safe, I yanked the landline's cord out of the wall and dropped it behind the table. That night, I fell asleep early. Sometime after midnight, the phone rang. At first, I tried to ignore it. Ring after ring after ring. I rolled out of bed, trudged to the kitchen, and picked up the receiver. "Who is this?" I grumbled. On the other end, a woman's laugh, soft, delighted, almost relieved. "It's late," I snapped. "Knock off the prank calls." The laughing stopped. The silence felt heavy, attentive. Then a voice, close to the mic, amused, said, "Unplugging the cord won't help." My scalp prickled. I stared at the base of the phone. The coiled line hung from the handset. Sure. But the wall cord still lay where I'd dropped it, the prongs shining in the moonlight. Not connected to anything. The woman started laughing again, louder this time, like she was right beside my ear. I slammed the phone down so hard it clattered, then dove under my covers like I was 10 years old. I lay awake until dawn, heart racing, the silence pressing into me like wool. In the morning, I boxed up the rotary and took it to a different thrift store across town. The clerk didn't ask. I didn't explain. If you ever pick up a black rotary in Chicago and you swear you hear a woman giggling behind your own voice, do what I should have done. Don't answer. I was just starting out in Austin. First real job, tiny paycheck, learning how to pass for client ready. A secondhand boutique downtown became my secret weapon. Designer pieces, thrift prices. One Friday night, I went in for a blazer and walked out with the dress. It was a vintage black cocktail dress, heavy fabric, impeccable seams, old money elegance. A little tight, but when I sucked in, I could zip it. In my bathroom mirror, the cut made me look impossibly slim. I told myself, a few weeks of salads and steps, and it'll fit like it was made for me. I started being good. Every Sunday I tried the dress again. It never went on easily, but every time I forced it into place, I felt calm. The gnawing hunger that followed me all week just evaporated. My brain got quiet. I told myself that kind of focus had to be a good sign. Months passed. Coworkers kept saying I looked amazing. I didn't see it in photos. Not really. The dress still fought me every Sunday morning. Zipper biting my skin, fabric pressing into bone. So clearly I had a ways to go. The calmer I felt in it, the worse I felt out of it. At night, I would stare at the hanger and ache to put it back on. Then my college friend Maya visited for a long weekend. I opened the door, and she froze. "Jesus, Danny," she whispered. "You've gotten scary thin." I laughed it off and told her about the dress that was still too tight. She frowned, pulled the garment bag from my closet, and held the dress up to my frame. "It's huge on you," she said. "Also, why are you wearing a morning dress?" I stared at the fabric in her hands, then at the mirror. In reality, I was gaunt, eyes sunken, clavicles like blades. But when I slid the dress on, the mirror told me I was still not enough. Never enough. Just one more week. Just one more inch. Maya didn't argue. She drove me to urgent care. The nurse weighed me, clucked her tongue, and made me drink something sweet while she ordered blood work. Severe malnutrition, the doctor said gently. Your body's been cannibalizing itself. We left with meal plans and electrolyte powders, and the dress in a bag. On the way home, Maya turned into the parking lot of a church. An older priest listened while we haltingly explained. His eyes softened in the way of people who've seen too much. Sometimes, he said, things cling to what we make beautiful and call it love. We stood behind the church as he set a small metal barrel alight. The fabric smoked an oily black. The smell turned my stomach. The fire popped like a sigh. Then it was only ash. I ate with Maya that night, slowly, shakily. It took a week to feel hunger again. When I looked in the mirror, there was only my face, tired, puffy, human. I still can't explain why a dress that hung off my bones felt like a vice when I wore it. I only know that when the fabric burned, the quiet left with it. Sophomore year at Ohio State, I was broke enough to take anything free. When a friend said a club senior had extra furniture, I said yes to a bed and a bookcase. We hauled them up 3 flights, and I crashed that night like a rock. The dreams started quick. Third person, like I was watching myself from the ceiling, me at the foot of the bed, a man with a blurred face lying on it, talking without moving his lips. You're tired, he whispered. It won't get better. Come, lie down, stop trying. Soon it wasn't just dreams. I was always cold, always sore. I woke with the taste of dust in my mouth and a heaviness pressing my chest. My grades slipped. I skipped shifts. At the clinic, they told me I needed rest, more iron, less stress. When it got bad, the only place I felt any relief was the bed. If I lay down, the pain receded, right up until my body locked and I couldn't move. Sleep paralysis, I told myself. Just sleep paralysis. My childhood friend Lena came to check on me. She opened the door, sniffed, and said, "It smells stale in here." She threw the windows up, started bagging trash, bullied me into drinking water. When we got to the bed, she paused. "You feel better only here?" she asked. "That's not comforting, Nick." She suggested we drag the mattress onto the balcony for sun. We heaved it up, turned it, and both went still. On the underside, pressed into the stuffing, was a human shape. Like a shadow scorched into foam. Arms spread, legs out, head tilted just so. A full body print, dark and greasy against the fabric. I called my friend, who'd given me the bed. He hemmed and hawed until Lena ripped the phone out of my hand and told him to cut the crap. Finally, he said the senior hadn't transferred after all. He'd died, in bed. The club had helped his parents clear the apartment and save on bulk disposal by donating what they could. We carried the mattress to the curb and duct-taped trash bags over the bookcase. A guy with a truck from Lena's dorm came and took them to the dump before sundown. That night, I slept on the floor on a borrowed blanket and woke feeling like air had come back into the world. No man whispering from the mattress. No hands pinning my shoulders. I bought a new bed with a payment plan and never took free furniture again. Sometimes I still dream from the ceiling. The me down there never lies down. I met June on a packaging job. We were both junior designers in Milwaukee, staying late too often and eating takeout at our desks. When we did escape, we'd grab dinner and talk about clients and half-serious future plans. Somewhere along the way, I fell for her, which meant I kept my mouth shut and tried to be a good listener. One night, a TV at the bar was running a ghost special, and I asked, half joking, if she'd ever had anything truly creepy happen. She sipped her beer and said, just once, like she was remembering something she'd been trying to forget. Freshman year, she'd moved from a small town to a studio near campus. She found her dream vanity at a tiny antique store. Hollywood bulbs around the mirror, lacquered drawers that smelled like old perfume. It cost more than her rent, but she paid anyway. That night, she sat at it, blow-dried her hair, and watched herself glow. Over the next weeks, she spent more time there, makeup, skincare, practicing smiles. Away from the mirror, though, she felt irritable. Above everyone, friends told her she looked incredible. She agreed, and somehow that made them seem smaller. She had a crush on a guy in her typography class. He finally said yes to coffee, then spent the date avoiding her eyes. She pushed him. He said, "You're different, June. Harsher. And your face." He couldn't finish. When she demanded he say it, he asked if she'd had work done. People were talking, and why she'd chosen to make herself look so severe. She threw water in his face and fled to the bathroom, shaking. In the mirror above the sink, she saw herself and didn't. It was her bone structure, but stretched, lifted, sharpened. The eyes too large and slightly tilted, the mouth thinner, the brows edged like scalpels. She remembered all at once how the vanity mirror sometimes showed a woman behind her hands, pale, red-haired, self-satisfied, combing through waves like a backstage star. June called the guy from the hall and apologized, voice cracking. She told him she couldn't go back to her place alone and asked for help. The next day, they moved the vanity out. She thought about reselling it, then pictured someone else sitting there, letting that other face slide over theirs until it fit. They drove to his uncle's shop and took it apart with a crowbar. The mirror cracked like ice. They wrapped the shards in contractor bags and hauled them to the dump. In a few weeks, the old June was back. Still pretty, but hers. She scrolled through her photos and showed me one from the bad period. I didn't want to look. Then I did. The face on her screen was striking in a way that made me uneasy, as if it was studying me back, weighing something. I told myself glass distortions can do that. I told myself a lot of reasonable things. June smiled and changed the subject. I never confessed how I felt. Some nights, when I pass the big mirror in my hallway, my reflection holds eye contact a heartbeat too long, like it's checking whether I'm ready yet. I took a job at a secondhand warehouse in Detroit to keep the lights on. Pick up, polish, price tag, repeat. We got a haul of old hardwood furniture one week, heavy dressers, a dining set, a single armoire that smelled like cedar and rain. While I wiped years of attic from its doors, I noticed a knot in the wood that looked like an eye. With a few more passes of the rag, the eye found a nose, then a mouth. Pareidolia, I told myself. Brains love faces. We staged the armoire at the end of the main aisle, doors cracked to show the spacious interior. Mid-shift, I glanced up from the register and saw an elderly woman at the far end, her back to me, touching the door like you'd touch a sleeping dog. By the time I reached the aisle, she was gone. The armoire stood open, drawing breath. I closed it and told myself she must have drifted to lamps or linens. Then I looked, really looked at the wood grain inside. The face seemed clearer. Hair suggested itself, a cheek shadowed by time. Later, I spotted her again, fingers on the same door. I hustled over before she could vanish and offered delivery if she wanted it. She smiled without showing teeth and said, "It's a very good piece." I led her to the counter to fill out a slip. I could hear her steps behind me. When I turned with the form, the aisle was empty. The armoire's doors stood open again, patient and proud. I told my shift lead. He rolled his eyes and said, to stop letting horror podcasts eat my brain. For 3 months, the armoire sat. Some mornings we'd come in and its doors would already be open, though we were sure we'd closed them the night before. Each time I went to shut it, I checked the grain. The face grew. a softness at the jaw, a weathered kindness in the brow, and a sorrow I couldn't talk myself out of. One evening, a man in his 50s came in and asked if the armoire was still available. "I need to buy it back," he said, almost embarrassed. "From you, from whoever I sold it to." He told me he'd cleared out his mother's house after she died. He'd kept her wedding quilt, but the rest? He'd told himself he had no space. Lately, though, he'd been dreaming of her every night, standing with her palm on the armoire door, the way she used to when she was thinking. The last dream, she was angry, not at him, exactly, but at the choice. "Bring it home," she'd said. "I'm not finished with it." I rang him up. The owner made me tack on an extra $30 for trouble. I wheeled the dolly down the aisle. The grain inside looked like plain wood again. No cheek, no brow, nothing but lines. When we got it on the truck, the man rested his hand where his mother's had been and shut his eyes. After he drove away, I stood in the quiet store and watched dust fall through the track lights. I told myself it was a good ending. Then I thought about how long the armoire had sat here with its doors open, waiting. And I wondered how many other pieces on the floor had faces hidden in their wood, or voices in their coils, polite as a ring at midnight, patient as a whisper at your ear. "I'm not finished with you,"